These individuals have been organizing resistance against lawful redevelopment. They're pictures of two friends talking. We cannot allow emotional manipulation to stand in the way of economic growth.
You seem very afraid of two women with vegetable baskets.
I'm afraid of misinformation.
No, you're afraid people might begin asking questions. Questions like who profits when hundreds of families lose their livelihoods? Who approved demolishing the market weeks ahead of schedule? And why were city officers threatening elderly vendors before any public announcement was made?
Victor's confident expression cracked for the first time. He hadn't expected anyone to connect the events. Before he could answer, another voice rang out. I have those answers. Everyone turned. A young man in a reflective construction vest walked through the crowd carrying a thick folder. My name is Ethan Brooks. I worked on the redevelopment project. Victor's face turned pale. Ethan, what are you doing? Ethan ignored him. He held up several documents. These are the original construction schedules. The market wasn't supposed to be demolished for another 6 months. The crowd erupted. What? 6 months? Ethan continued. The dates were changed last week. And someone ordered us to begin clearing the land immediately. Victor stepped down from the platform. He's lying. Ethan opened the folder. I brought copies. He handed them directly to the reporters. Camera flashes exploded across the square. Journalists began reading the document aloud. One reporter looked at Victor. Councilman Stone, these signatures appear to authorize early demolition. Victor forced a nervous laugh. They've been forged. Ethan shook his head. No. I watched you sign them. The market fell into stunned silence. Victor's eyes darted toward his security team. He realized he was losing control. Very quickly. But hidden beneath her one shawl, Evelyn quietly pressed a small button on the pendant hanging around her neck. Miles away, inside the Carter Foundation's private security office, a green light flashed. Her chief of security looked at the monitor. Mrs. Carter just activated Priority 1. He immediately stood. Prepare the legal team. The time we've been waiting for. It has finally begun. The market exploded into chaos. Reporters rushed toward Ethan, microphones stretched over one another as cameras rolled from every angle. Mr. Brooks, are you saying the public was deliberately misled? Do you have proof? Who ordered the demolition? Ethan tightened his grip on the folder. I've kept quiet for months because I was afraid. He glanced toward Victor. But after seeing families treated like they don't matter anymore, I couldn't stay silent. Victor forced a laugh. He's a disgruntled employee. He was fired. Ethan looked him straight in the eye. No. I resigned. Because I refused to falsify safety reports. A murmur swept through the crowd. Victor's smile disappeared. Security. 2 large guards immediately moved toward Ethan. Before they reached him, Evelyn stepped calmly into their path. You may want to think carefully. One guard frowned. Move, old woman. I would. Evelyn replied quietly. But there are 23 cameras pointed at you right now. The guards looked around. She was right. Every television crew had turned its lenses toward them. Neither man dared touch her. Sarah stared at Evelyn in amazement. How do you stay so calm? Evelyn smiled without taking her eyes off Victor. When people are lying, they usually defeat themselves if you give them enough time. Across the square, Victor grabbed one of the reporters' microphones. This meeting is over. The city will release an official statement later. He climbed down from the platform and hurried toward his SUV. Councilman. One more question. Did you authorize the demolition? Victor ignored them all. As his vehicle sped away, the market erupted into applause. For the first time in months, the powerful man had walked away instead of winning. Sarah turned to Ethan. You were very brave. He gave a nervous smile. I almost didn't come. What changed your mind? Ethan looked toward Evelyn. I watched an old woman stand up to people everyone else feared. If she could do that with nothing, I had no excuse. Evelyn lowered her head modestly. Courage has a way of spreading. Just then, Michael Lawson appeared at the edge of the market wearing an ordinary jacket and carrying a paper grocery bag. To everyone else, he looked like another customer. Only Evelyn recognized him. He stopped beside her stall. How much for the tomatoes? He asked naturally. They are fresh this morning. They are not for sale today, Evelyn replied. Michael nodded. He understood. That was their code. Something urgent had happened. He picked up a cabbage and examined it. Storm's coming. Evelyn answered without looking at him. I know. It's bigger than we expected. He quietly slipped a folded note beneath the cabbage before walking away. Sarah noticed the exchange. You know him. Just another customer. Later that afternoon, after the market finally emptied, Evelyn unfolded the note. Only 6 words were written inside. Daniel knows you're still alive. For the first time in nearly a year. Evelyn's expression changed. Not fear. Concern. She had hoped to finish her investigation before Daniel discovered the truth. Now everything had changed. Meanwhile, inside the penthouse office of Carter Industries, Daniel stood in front of a massive window overlooking the city. His assistant entered carrying a tablet. You need to see this. Daniel watched footage from the market. Ethan's testimony. Victor losing control. The mysterious old woman calmly dismantling every accusation. He paused the video on Evelyn's face. Zoom in. The assistant enlarged the image. Daniel stared at it for several long seconds. The eyes. He whispered. They are familiar. The assistant looked confused. You've met her before? Daniel slowly shook his head. I don't know. But every time I see her, I feel like she's judging me. His phone buzzed. Victor was calling. Daniel answered immediately. What happened? Victor's voice was tense. We have a problem. I noticed. No. Victor replied. I mean a serious problem. The woman. I had someone follow her. Daniel leaned forward. And? Victor hesitated. They lost her. What do you mean they lost her? They watched her enter an abandoned warehouse. When they went inside, it was empty. No exits. No tunnels. No old woman. Daniel frowned. That's impossible. It gets worse. Victor lowered his voice. One of my men found security cameras hidden around the building. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. Who owns the warehouse? There was a long silence. Finally, Victor answered. We are still checking. But whoever owns it, they are watching us. Daniel slowly ended the call. For the first time since taking control of the family business. He wasn't the one making moves. Someone else was. Someone patient. Someone intelligent. Someone always one step ahead. He looked once more at the frozen image of Evelyn's face. Then he whispered to himself. Who are you, really? Miles away, Evelyn folded the note and slipped it into her pocket. She looked across the market at Sarah laughing with Noah as they packed away the last of the bread. A warm smile crossed her face. The truth is getting closer, she murmured. But before I reveal who I am. She looked toward the skyline where Carter Industries towered above the city. There's one final lesson my family still needs to learn. The following morning, the market opened earlier than usual. No one wanted to miss what might happen next. Word had spread overnight. Victor Stone had disappeared from the public eye. Television stations were replaying Ethan's testimony. Customers whispered as they moved from store to store. Do you think they'll cancel the demolition? I heard investigators showed up at City Hall. My cousin says Victor hasn't answered his phone. Sarah tried to ignore the conversations as she arranged fresh bread on her table. Business was finally improving again. One customer bought 2 loaves. Another bought 5. Within an hour, nearly half her basket was empty. Noah looked up at her with a grin. See, Mom. I told you things would get better. Sarah kissed the top of his head. I hope you're right. Across the aisle, Evelyn quietly watched mother and son. For the first time since she had entered Sarah's life, she allowed herself to believe that hope was beginning to outweigh fear. Then a convoy of luxury vehicles rolled into the market. The conversation stopped instantly. 4 black SUVs. A silver limousine. Nearly 20 men in dark suits stepped out. They weren't city officials. They weren't reporters. They were executives from Carter Industries. The crowd parted as Daniel Carter emerged from the limousine. He wasn't smiling this time. He walked directly toward Evelyn. Every step was slow, measured, purposeful. Sarah instinctively stepped between them. What do you want? Daniel didn't answer her. His eyes remained fixed on Evelyn. I've been looking for you. Evelyn tilted her head slightly. Have you? I know you're hiding something. She smiled politely. And what exactly do you think I'm hiding? Daniel reached into his jacket and removed a photograph. It was old, faded around the edges. He held it beside Evelyn's face. The crowd leaned closer. The younger woman in the photograph had the same eyes. The same gentle smile. The same unmistakable expression. Sarah's heart began pounding. Daniel lowered the photograph. You remind me of someone. Evelyn remained perfectly calm. I'm sure many people have familiar faces. Daniel took another step forward. My aunt disappeared 11 months ago. Everyone believes she's dead. But I don't. Silence spread across the market. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Sarah looked from Daniel to Evelyn. Her mind raced. No. It couldn't be. Could it? Daniel folded the photograph. Tell me your real name. Evelyn met his gaze without blinking. My name is Evelyn. Daniel's voice hardened. Your full name? Before Evelyn could answer, Michael Lawson appeared from the crowd carrying a leather briefcase. That's enough. Daniel turned sharply. And who are you? Michael calmly produced his identification. My name is Michael Lawson. I've served as legal counsel to the Carter family for over 25 years. Daniel's expression changed. Michael. I thought you retired. I've been busy. Michael looked directly at him. Very busy. Daniel frowned. What are you doing here? I'm protecting my client. The words hit Daniel like a hammer. Your client? Michael nodded. Yes. Daniel slowly looked back at Evelyn. His breathing became shallow. No. It can't be. Michael didn't confirm it. He didn't deny it either. Instead, he opened the briefcase and removed a thick envelope. This contains evidence of forged signatures, fraudulent contracts, illegal land transfers, and conspiracy involving the redevelopment project. He held it just out of Daniel's reach. It also contains evidence identifying every person responsible. Daniel swallowed hard. Who's named in it? Michael answered calmly. Would you like me to read the list out loud? Daniel's confidence began to crack. People throughout the market had taken out their phones. Every word was being recorded. He glanced at the growing crowd. This isn't the place. No, Michael replied. It isn't. The courthouse is. Sarah stood frozen. Nothing made sense anymore. She looked at Evelyn. You knew this lawyer. Evelyn smiled softly. We've known each other for a long time. Sarah's voice trembled. Who are you? Before Evelyn could answer, Noah tugged gently on her hand. He looked up at her with innocent eyes. I don't care who you are. You've always been nice to us. The simple words pierced the silence. Evelyn felt tears gather in her eyes. She knelt so she was level with Noah. And you've reminded me of something very important. What? That the purest hearts often belong to those with the least. Daniel watched the scene unfold. For the first time, he noticed something he had ignored his entire life. People weren't standing around Evelyn because she was powerful. They were standing around her because they trusted her. That realization unsettled him more than any accusation ever could. Just then, the distant sound of police sirens echoed through the streets. Several patrol cars entered the market and stopped beside the SUVs. The lead detective stepped out holding an arrest warrant. He looked directly at Michael. We received your evidence. Michael nodded once. It's complete. The detective turned toward the crowd. We are looking for Victor Stone. A murmur spread through the market. One reporter shouted, has he been arrested? The detective answered without hesitation. Not yet. But after reviewing these documents, it's only a matter of time. Daniel slowly closed his eyes. For the first time since inheriting his uncle's empire, he realized the walls around him were collapsing. And standing quietly at the center of it all was the elderly vegetable seller everyone had underestimated. The final truth was now closer than ever, and once it came out, nothing in the town would ever be the same. The detective's words echoed through the market. We are looking for Victor Stone. A restless murmur spread through the crowd. He's finally going to answer for what he did. I knew those permits were fake. What happens to the market now? Daniel stood motionless. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking like a businessman. He was thinking like a frightened nephew. He looked at Evelyn again. There was something about the way she carried herself. The calm. The patience. The disappointment in her eyes. It reminded him of someone he hadn't allowed himself to think about in months. Before he could speak, his phone vibrated. His assistant sounded panicked. Mr. Carter, you need to come to headquarters immediately. What happened? The board. What about the board? They've called an emergency meeting. Daniel frowned. Who authorized that? Mr. Lawson. Daniel's eyes widened. That's impossible. He presented documents proving he still represents the majority shareholder. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. The majority shareholder died. A long silence followed. Then the assistant answered quietly. That's what everyone believed. The call ended. Daniel slowly lowered the phone. His hands were trembling. Michael watched him carefully. You should go. Daniel looked at him. Tell me one thing. Michael remained silent. My aunt. Is she alive? Before Michael could answer, Evelyn gently stepped forward. There are some answers, Daniel, that must be earned. Daniel searched her face. His voice softened. If you know where she is, please tell her. He stopped. The words refused to come. Evelyn waited. Finally, he whispered. I never meant for things to go this far. She studied him for several seconds. Then she asked quietly. When did they begin? Daniel looked confused. What? The lies. He closed his eyes. They didn't begin as lies. They began as excuses. I kept telling myself I was protecting the company. Then I convinced myself the market wasn't important. Then I convinced myself people would recover. And after a while, I stopped asking whether anything I was doing was right. The market had become completely silent. Even the reporters lowered their microphones. Sarah listened closely. She had expected arrogance. Instead, she had regret. Evelyn spoke again. Do you know what your uncle used to tell every new manager? Daniel nodded faintly. He said, a business doesn't become successful because of the buildings. It becomes successful because people choose to trust it. A tear rolled down Daniel's cheek before he quickly wiped it away. I forgot. No, Evelyn replied. You chose to. Daniel couldn't argue. He turned toward the waiting limousine. I have to go. As he reached the door, he looked back one last time. If you ever see my aunt, tell her I'm sorry. Without waiting for an answer, he climbed inside. The convoy drove away in silence. Sarah exhaled slowly. I almost felt sorry for him. Evelyn nodded. Sometimes the hardest punishment isn't prison. It's realizing the person you've become. Just then, Noah came running toward them with a newspaper in his hands. Mom. Look. The front page had just been printed. Across the top, in bold letters, it read, City orders immediate suspension of market demolition. Cheers erupted throughout the square. Vendors embraced one another. Some cried openly. Mr. Harris removed his cap and looked toward the sky. I never thought I'd live to see this day. The flower seller hugged Sarah. We are staying. We are really staying. Sarah smiled through tears. We are staying. As the celebration continued, Evelyn quietly slipped away from the crowd. Michael was waiting for her at the end of a narrow alley. It's time, he said. She nodded. How many confirmed? 9 board members. And the others? They'll attend once they learn who's chairing the meeting. Michael opened the rear door of a waiting luxury sedan. For the first time in nearly a year, Evelyn removed the faded scarf from her shoulders. She took off the worn cardigan. From a garment bag inside the car, she changed into an elegant cream-colored suit. A jeweler's box rested beside it. Inside was her wedding ring. She stared at it for a long moment before sliding it back onto her finger. Michael smiled gently. Mr. Carter always said you looked unstoppable wearing that ring. If this story is touching your heart already, comment below. Good hearts always win. And don't forget to subscribe because the final part will reveal the emotional moment that